Hi, so if it looks like I haven't slept for a week, it's because I haven't. It has been wild, and I actually filmed a vlog that was supposed to go up this week, and then I just forgot to edit it and forgot to do anything with it. So I think I'm just going to trash my vlog from last week and start anew this coming week. We'll see. I was doing so well with the vlogs and getting them up and everything, and then honestly, I'm like so bummed that I have fallen off the wagon with it, but we'll see. I want the vlogs to come back, but with how busy everything's been, let's just assume one video a week for right now. It's everyone's favorite time of the year where we do the Mid-Year Freakout Tag. So let's just get into the questions and talk about some books, some reading, all that stuff that we love to do here. I'm also filming way later in the day than I normally film, so that's why the lighting looks super weird. I'm like using my ring light again. And I haven't used my ring light in a while because I've had good natural lighting, but yeah, I just had to change it to like a different thing because I thought the colors were so harsh on my face. I don't know. Okay, anyway, so let's get to it. So the first question is, what have I been reading? No, that's not even the first question. How much have you been reading? So I have officially finished 46 books, and I'm currently reading 3 right now. 4, I think, actually. 2 audiobooks right now and 2 physical books. So once I finish what I'm currently reading, I'll be at 50, which was my yearly goal. I'm pretty proud of myself for that one. What have I been reading? So I've been reading a ton of stuff this year. As always, I end up reading a lot of YA, a lot of fantasy, but I also read some nonfiction this year, which I really loved and enjoyed. And it's a genre that I want to explore some more. I have tons of nonfiction here that I want to read, and I just never get around to it because I want to be really mentally present when I read nonfiction, especially if it's something about a subject that I want to know more about. So it's harder for me to read nonfiction leisurely, I guess. So I want to read more nonfiction, but I have read more this year than I have in a while. I also have read some romance. I read a bunch of Star Wars books this year, which I was super excited about. That's quickly become one of my favorite. I don't think Star Wars in and of itself is a genre, but I don't know really what else to call it. I don't know, because they feel like they're their own separate thing. There's genres within the Star Wars thing, but they're all Star Wars. I don't know. But I've really, really been enjoying the Star Wars books. And then the next question is the best book I've read so far. And I hate that question. That's my least favorite question. I feel like it's everyone's least favorite question, because how do you choose a favorite amongst all of your children, your favorite children books? So I have a few favorites, I guess I would say. I really enjoyed Beartown, 5th season, Yellowface, Entangled Life, the Thrawn book. There's just so many. And there's so many that I can't even think of. But that's a couple to give you where I'm at. Next question is the best sequel that I've read so far this year. And it's actually funny that that's a question, because I've actually read a lot of sequels this year, more than I normally do. And I would have to say probably either The Dragon Republic or Starsight. In terms of what makes sequels really great, I feel like both of them did a really awesome job expanding on the world, expanding on the characters, while still keeping us within that same feeling and universe. I love when books are able to... Okay, so I watched this 40-minute video essay on why Shrek 2 is the perfect sequel. And I'm not even joking. Ever since I watched that video, that is what I use to determine if a sequel is good or not. And both of these books hit a lot of those points where it's it expands on the world in meaningful ways. With The Dragon Republic, without going too spoilery, I really enjoyed the expansion on the relationships with the characters and their place in the world and the magic system and how that kind of all fits in with everything else. And with Starsight, kind of the same deal. We get this expansion into the world, where at the end of the first book, there's this, I don't want to say it's a twist, but there's this big event that happens. And then in the second book, we're kind of thrust into this new life that our main character has to navigate. And they both do a really good job, I think, expanding on that and, immersing you in the world completely. The next question is a new release that I haven't read yet, but I want to. Now, I'm going to say of the new books that I've gotten recently, and that's going to be All's Well. It's by the author of Bunny, which I haven't read yet, but I want to read Bunny. But this one really caught my eye because it's about an actress and theater and Shakespeare, and I think it's going to be pretty dark, and I'm super excited for that one. I think it came out earlier this year, maybe last year. I'm really not sure. So it's still, in my eyes, a new release, but it's not like it didn't come out last month, if you know what I mean. Oh, I could also say You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight. I am a camp slasher. What are those called? Like the camp horror movies. It's kind of based on that. Oh, I love that setting. I really want to read that book. So maybe that one actually. I take it back. Both of them. But that one I think You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight came out last month, maybe. So that one is actually fairly recent. And then the next question is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Now, honestly, I haven't been staying as up to date as I'd like to be on new books coming out in the second half of the year. I've been trying to take it slow and really focus and read the books that I currently own, or that are like currently books that I've been waiting to read, because I feel like if I am thinking too far ahead, unless it's with purpose, like it's a specific author that I'm following, if I think too far ahead too quickly, I will never catch up to that. So I just have to be really mindful of what books I'm reading and buying and pre-ordering. So I'll be honest, if I see a new release in the store that I want to pick up, I will pick it up, but I am not like searching out for them at this time. And I don't think that there's one that I'm currently waiting on. But that's not to say that I wouldn't read a new release if one showed up and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to read that. So I don't know. Next is a book that's out of my comfort zone. Okay, so I read a couple books that were wild this year. And so the first one I'm going to say is Earthlings, which is a Japanese book. Don't even know how to describe it and not make you think that it's fake. That book was really tough to read. I actually listened to it on audiobook, which I don't know if that was better or worse, because it kind of felt like someone was telling me this really traumatizing childhood story of theirs, and I had to be like, oh wow, as I was like cringing. It was super, oh my gosh, how do I describe it? It was like this little girl and her cousin, they both believe that they're aliens sent to our Earth, and that like that's why they don't fit in with the world and society. And the whole book is really a comment on society and how people feel very alienated from society, or why certain individuals feel very alienated from society due to the way that they're raised or traumatic things that happen to them in their lives. So I really can't say much more than that, but that book is wild, and it was so interesting though, and honestly I'm really glad I read it, but the end was, just check your triggers before you read that book. And the next book I would say is Tender as the Flesh, which Tender as the Flesh is about a society where a virus kills out all of the animals, and so the government allows the use of cannibalism, but like where they raise human beings as cattle to be slaughtered for meat. And it's kind of this dystopian future, and then we follow this character who like tours the farm, and I don't even know if that's what it's called, but he gets gifted one of these, they call them heads, you know, they're not cattle, they're heads. He gets gifted a woman to be bred so that he can have that. Yeah, it's very messed up, but that's kind of the point. Both of those books, I would say, tested my comfort levels and my boundaries. And the thing is, I think they both bring up interesting points, but if you talk about them on the most surface level, you really miss on what the book is saying. And so I'm not even doing it justice by trying to give you the synopsis of like what it's about, but they're both saying some very, very interesting things. And I think Tender as the Flesh is a book that's going to be taught in school, if it's not already, because I feel like that's going to replace a book like The Jungle or something along those lines, 1984, something like that, because it kind of has that same feeling of just uneasiness and like what makes someone a human and what makes someone not human. You know, if you take away their name and their personhood, what is humanity? You know, it like asks those kinds of questions. And some of the descriptions I think were just a little bit gory for me. So that would be why those books were a little bit out of my comfort zone, but they were both very good in their own way, but definitely not one that I would recommend to just anybody. The next question is like, what was my biggest surprise? And that would be Cold as Hell, which is a cowboy book. Now there's a story as to how I read this book. So one of my favorite video games is Red Dead Redemption 2. If you don't know what that is, basically you play as a cowboy and it's a horse game and you're an outlaw running from the law. And yeah, so it's cowboys at the turn of the century in like 1899 or something like that. And I went on Reddit of all places and I went to like the suggest me a book page and I was like, hey, what books would you recommend for someone who loves Red Dead Redemption 2 and wants to read like a cowboy western, but like something that's not too old or like, I don't know. I feel like Westerns can sometimes have a stereotype of just, you know what I mean. So someone suggested this book because the audiobook is read by the guy who voices the main character in Red Dead Redemption 2. And if you don't know this, he has an amazing voice. It is incredible. And so I went into this book and basically it's a cowboy who died, but because he redeemed himself at his death by saving a young woman, he got a second chance to, instead of going to hell, he can work for the angels and like banish demons from Earth and like monsters like that. So it's kind of this cowboy book with like demons and he's kind of like a sheriff character. So it was really interesting and I read the audiobook and it was honestly one of the most enjoyable audiobooks ever. I just love his voice. I think his name is Robert. I can't think of his last name though, or Roger. Definitely one of the biggest surprises, one of the first reads of the year, and it was so good. The next one is a new favorite author, and for that I have to say R.F. Kuang. I knew she was gonna be like my favorite author. I just knew it. But now that I've read a decent amount of her work, I feel like I can rightfully say that. I really enjoyed The Poppy War. I really enjoyed The Dragon Republic. And then I also read Yellowface on audiobook and it was incredible. Like her mind. I can definitely say I'm a big fan of hers. I don't know if she's my favorite author of all time. I don't know if I have a favorite author of all time, but she's definitely someone where like if I saw she had a new book coming out, I would be less hesitant to buy it sight unseen than like some other authors. Next one is Underrated Gems that I've read recently, and I have 3. So the first one is going to be The Traveling Cat Chronicles, which is a Japanese book where the narrator is a cat. I was very excited about it, and basically his owner has to give him up, and it's him taking the cat with him and trying to find him his new home, his new owner, and then you learn like why he has to give the cat up and like what's going on and everything, and it's all through the cat's eyes and it's so sweet. And the cat really talks like you would expect a cat to talk, like he wants people to think he doesn't care, but secretly he really does. It was such a cute book. I was sobbing at the end of the book, literally sobbing. Like Hugo walked in the room and was concerned about my mental well-being after reading this book. I really, really enjoyed it. The next one I'm going to say is Life is Strange, Steph's Story. If you played any of the Life is Strange games, or if you've played the newest one, True Colors, you will recognize Steph. She is one of the like main characters in the True Colors game, and she's also probably like one of my favorite characters of all time. She's super nerdy. She loves D&D. She wears a beanie. She works at the record store. And this is actually her backstory before True Colors. So you get to kind of learn about her. She's in a band. What I loved about this book, I think, was the colorful cast of characters. Like everyone was so fun. And I definitely think I enjoyed this book as much as I did because I love the character and the games so much. So this isn't one that I would necessarily recommend to just anyone, but I ended up really, really loving that book. And going into it, I had no idea how good it was going to be or anything like that, but it kind of blew me away and I adored it. And then lastly, I have A Little Bit Country, which is a book I read on audiobook. And again, just like a little hidden gem of a romance. And it was a very sweet YA romance, like country music and Tennessee as like the landscape, talking about not fitting in a world that wants you to present yourself a certain way, and like coming to terms with who you are as a person, and like not wanting to hide yourself, and like forbidden love. Like, oh my gosh, for real, such a great book. And it was so cute, and I'm honestly surprised I don't see it recommended more. The last like prompt question are like books that I need to read by the end of the year. And like, let me tell you, I have so many. I want to get a lot of my physical TBR out of the way because I have actually not that many books on my physical TBR to get through. I want to get through as many of those as I can by the end of the year. So that's like You and Me on Vacation, Cytonic, All's Well, The Library of Lost Things, Imogen, obviously, Uprooted, Scythe, The Cat That Saved Books. I'm like missing more, but yeah, just I want to get through a lot of my physical TBR. And then like with audiobooks, I kind of just look at what's on my subscription that is like new or that I've been wanting to read, and I read that because I spend a lot of time on the bus and on the tram, and so that's like a nice way to pass the time. So yeah, that is my mid-year freakout tag. I think I did it right. I just found the prompts online, so I'm hoping that I did this right. That's my mid-year freakout tag. I want to know what you guys have been reading, what you are up to. How are you doing on your reading goal for the year? Tell me what your TBR is like. Have you read any of the books that I want to be reading by the end of the year? I would just love to hear anything that you have to say. Please, please, please let me know. I can't believe the year is already halfway over. It feels like it was January literally last week, but it's July tomorrow, which also means I think my booktube birthday is coming up, which is wild. So yeah, lots of fun and exciting things coming up. So I'm still going to try and post once a week. We're going to see how that all turns out. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more of my writing and bookish content. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.